and meet me near the canyons.
We can't hide who you are anymore. But if I tell Fune...
Do it. Tell her I'm Jin Sakai. She knows I fight for Iki. My actions prove it.
Hey guys, Riley here, and I'm partying like it's 2021, playing Ghost of Tsushima's Iki Island DLC. Finally was able to get some time to play this, and I'm enjoying it just as much as I enjoyed the base game. Now that I'm using a PS5, I was able to get the director's cut thanks to the PlayStation Plus game catalog, which is a really nice touch that has the full aspect of the director's cut, which includes the Iki Island DLC. And here's what I liked. It's more of the same combat, more exploring, and some great things that you can do across a new island next to the Tsushima island that continues Jin's story. Now, where it does fall down in some areas is that story. Playing the game on the PS5 and the director's cut is the definitive way to do it, and the performance, the graphics, and the continued exploration of Iki Island are all fantastic. But the story leaves a little bit something to be desired here as you're going to deal with Jin's daddy issues. And it's not that the writing is bad or moment-to-moment dialogue is something that you cringe at. It's just that overall it's pretty forgettable by the time you finish it up. As far as video game stories go, the main Iki Island quest isn't that bad. But when you compare it with how the main game was, which had memorable moments, characters, and endings, it just feels like a misstep for a game that otherwise gets so much stuff right. What's disappointing here is that the premise of the Iki Island DLC is pretty solid. Jin journeys to Iki Island to defeat another faction of Mongols, while he deals with the actions of his father. His father, of course, became known as the Butcher of Iki before he was killed there, if you remember that from the main game and the flashbacks that they had. Now, the game promises continued look-backs into Jin's relationship with his father and how, despite his young age at the time, he didn't agree with his father's violent actions on the island. However, it never truly delivers on that promise of providing an introspection. Jin never really has to make any tough choices here. There's really any concrete details on what actually happened on the island that led to his father and the clan of samurai intervening on the conflict there. However, the story does make it clear that the Sakai clan wasn't necessarily in the right and did plenty of horrific violent actions to civilians, all in the name of the greater good. Now, the people of Iki are all clearly traumatized by the Sakai clan, and remnants of its violent past can be seen all over the island. Anytime anyone brings it up to Jin, he becomes incredibly defensive of his father's actions, despite his own moral compass and the ability to see that his father wasn't doing the right thing, which you'll see in the flashbacks. During his time on the island, Jin doesn't even gain the ability to empathize with those whom the Sakai clan traumatized all those years ago. Instead, he just grows increasingly hostile to anyone who questions Kazumasa, even when discussing a massacre of civilians that the Sakais carried out during a key point in the narrative. Now, towards the end of the story, Jin discovers that he's been working side by side with his father's killer, Tenzo, and the narrative hinges on whether or not Jin will kill him or find forgiveness. The villain of the Iki Island DLC, the Eagle, doesn't force Jin to confront anything about himself in the way that Kodo Kan does in the main story. Now, the entire conceit of Ghost of Tsushima revolves around Jin, a samurai needing to decide if it's worth abandoning his honor if it means it can save his people and defeat the Mongols. Now, the Mongol leader in the main game, Kodo Kan, embodies that centralized question and all of the challenges that Jin has to overcome. But in the DLC, the Eagle doesn't do anything really like that. They're a forgettable villain who is just evil for the sake of being evil and has no real backstory relationship to Jin, Iki Island, or the clan that he calls his family. Other than the fact that she's part of the Mongol invasion, the Eagle has no real reason to have any conflict with Jin. At the end of the day, Ghost of Tsushima's Iki Island DLC is definitely worth picking up for fans of the original. Unfortunately, while it fails to deliver the same kind of emotionally charged narrative that's present in the original story, and the most frustrating part of it comes from the fact that elements for a great story about Jin and his past were certainly there, but the narrative never makes good on that promise to dive deeper into his character and the conflicts within him. Riley out.
Tell her I am not my father. If I was, you would be dead.